let's do some thumbnail sketches, and we'll make. This is what I do. I just make some thumbnail sketches. And what I like about number one is I like the rock formation on the side here. Do I want it up that high? I'm not sure.
So do a lot of video calls and a lot of video
pull it down here a little further. And I love the sort of rock line, really interesting. So let me, I don't like that it's almost in the center though, that I put that in the center. So what I'm going to do is pull this one up a little higher and maybe a little more sky. Add that one up there. And that's what you do. This is the time you make these big decisions. So
Rob, I think you might want to mute people.
Oh yeah.
And record.
And record.
Oh, you guys are so good.
Yeah, record.
Man, you're on it. Okay, let's see now. From my participants, there we are. Okay. Okay, there. Now you can probably hear me better without all the background noise. You know what I'll do here is I'll zoom in on my little thumbnail, since this little thumbnail is really small. I mean, I do these, you know, there's my thumbnail. It's just a little bit bigger than my thumbnail. Something like that, I think that looks pretty, I'm not so sure. See, I don't want these rock formations crowding my trees. So let's see. Do I want a tree? Although I like the layout of this, but I'm not sure I want even both trees. We'll see. So I have something like this, something like that, and that's about all I do in a thumbnail right there. I mean, I do like this, and I do think we can balance that out with some other little Joshua trees in the background. So there's one. Okay, let's do another. So you see how fast I go through these thumbnails? I mean, usually I have them done in a minute or so. So I'm going to try this one with the rocks up a little bit higher. All right, so we got this. I like that. I do love the left Joshua tree a bit better, but I'm not so sure I want it on the left. And the one on the right is kind of wimpy. So I do like the placement of the one over here. So that's working out very much like this. Let's try it. Let's try it on the right. I'm sorry, it is on the. Let's try it right here. Okay, something like that, and something maybe like that. I just didn't want it to get too crowded in here. I want a little gap between the Joshua tree and this rock, which means I could either pull a rock back. There's a negative shape in there that I really want to make use of. Otherwise, things get too crowded and uncomfortable and cluttered and etc. So, as you can see, so much of putting together one of these things is the drafting. It always is. So it seems like one theme tree is a great idea. Having said that now, I really like the number 2, the Joshua tree number 2, and that's the one where you have the big V in the center. So let's go to that one. It's kind of a square composition. I'm not so sure I like that, but I like the tree. I think the tree could use a little work. Awfully strange tree. So maybe I'll put the V of the tree over here.
Can you move your paper up?
Oh,
we don't
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so close up into these things, it's really easy to get out of there. Thank you. And And I'm going to take this right out of the piece, right out of the composition there. Nice, comfortable cropping. I'm going to incorporate those rocks, since I really like that rock line in the other background there. And maybe a few of those interesting trees in the background. So those little Joshua trees in the background on this. So you see how I'm not really dictated by what I'm seeing in the photographs. I usually just take photographs and make my own composition out of them. Something like that. I like that. That one's laying out pretty nice. The big theme tree, it is beautiful. It's just a little wonky right in the center. Strange composition. I mean, it might make a neat poster though. So, and I did like cropping into this. That's another. I really like the colors in this. So you see, this is how, I mean, I haven't really given this any real consideration all that much. And so the cool thing is you can just see me walk through these ideas right in front of you instead of having it all done perfectly beforehand, which would be a lot safer for me. But, okay. So I think the decision is made. I think I'm going to go with this guy right here. And oftentimes, you know, I'll do 20 of these little things, just so you know. I mean, for the sake of time and for the sake of, I think I did make a few of these decisions already because I chose those photographs. So there were some subtle decisions made. Okay, let's see now. I'm going to go ahead, just like on the last time, and I'll put this one over here a little closer. We'll do a, I don't know, how about I doing this? Was the color on top? I don't know. I don't think it really matters. Yeah, the color's on top. So we'll do a small one here. This is about, I don't know, it looks like about 3 inches by 2.5 inches, something like that. These are just rough sketches. Something like that. I know my format is a little wider than this, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that a little bit wider. Forgot. And we'll see. Something like that. Okay, so for a value rough, this is just going to be my value over here. Whoops. Down at the bottom. Okay, so for the value, this is, you can just use pencil if you like. I love these strange formations of these rocks. They're just bizarre. Something like that. It's almost in half, but I think this kind of breaks it up. I usually don't like to divide it right in half, but I did want to see some land in here, and I want some sky, so I think we can work with that. You know, if I bring this down, then I get more land, then I lose my sky, and vice versa. I don't know. It's just, there's always choices you have to make. So I think I'm going to put my V for that tree in number 2, Joshua tree number 2, or Joshua number 2. I'm going to put the V about here. Very, very much like our little thumbnail. And we do have some small shrubs and trees back there. You can throw in whatever trees you like. But as you can see, we have this big mass here being balanced out by these smaller masses here. And a very like a teeter-totter, right? We've talked about. So we have a big mass here being balanced out by a smaller mass over there.
So Robert, I have a question.
Yeah.
The little trees in the background on photo number 2 go beyond the mountains, but you willfully do not want those to cut across the top of the range, correct?
Oh, I'm not including those mountains in the background on Joshua tree number 2. I'm doing the big boulders in Joshua number 1.
I understand that, but given that it's willful on your part. You prefer the composition with the trees not going across the top of your range.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could see, I know in my little thumbnail, I may have brought a couple over there. I don't think any would be that big. I don't think any of them would be that big. Yeah. So if I have little Joshua trees, and if you look at Joshua number 1, there are a few Joshua trees in the background there, and they're only about, so high. Something like that. If you want to get technical, we could do what we do in our perspective class and find the top of our Joshua tree here and the bottom of our Joshua tree there. And if our horizon is approximately through here, you have to just follow the top of the boulders in Joshua 1, but not quite to where they meet the ground, somewhere in this range. So let's just say, for instance, if I pick a point, say right here on my, I can make it this tall. And it should work in relationship to this one. You understand? That's how you gauge things. So in other words, if I wanted a really small tree way off in the background, and let's say I wanted the foot of the tree to be there, and I just come back over here. I mean, and it could be as much as like this tall. So it could be that tall. And certainly smaller, they're not all exactly the same height. So in nature, it's a very intuitive decision on your part. I don't think any Joshua trees would be coming over the top of this unless you put the foot of the tree way up here. I hope that makes sense.
Thank
Otherwise,
you very much.
This turns into a perspective class.
Yeah, no, very helpful. Thanks.
I know some of you have taken my drawing class, and I'm sure that makes a lot of sense since we've done this multiple times. And if it doesn't, that's fine. Just stick with it. And we'll keep learning stuff. We'll go over this stuff. I just went over it, right? We'll keep going over it. Okay, we have stuff right here. And I'm just putting out where my branches are generally. I'm just gesturing out what direction they're going. This one's sort of bending off over that way. Neat. I'm going to put in some, I don't want it to be perfectly straight like a perfect V, so I'm going to give it a little bit of, let's get a little bit of thickness on there. Some of them get really thick. This one seems like it kind of meets the other one way up in here. Give it a little bit of a curve there. The branches are a bit thinner and they're kind of hairy. I mean, I think these are very related to palm trees in a way, and of course yuccas, but even yuccas, if you look at the way the plumage is out in, I wouldn't call it plumage, but what do you call those little spiky spears? It's sort of like halfway between a palm tree and a cactus, That's the way I look at them anyway. I'm probably wrong. I know they're related though. They love arid places, yes.
Do you know they're related to the yucca we did last week?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because if you think about those flowers,
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, very much. Yeah. Definitely. It's that California landscape. All right, so you can beef these things out as much as you like. Now, this isn't really about detail, really. We're just wanting some value in here. So, but you know, even in a value study, I will study the gesture and the way a tree, let's say, moves. Something like that. That's all I'm looking for is just basic, just kind of gestures and generalities.
Rob, in your head, are you already planning how you're going to approach this in watercolor? I mean, I know we're talking
You know what? I know.
Okay, all right.
My
so
brain isn't even there yet.
Okay, so it's more spontaneous.
Yeah, but you know what? I pretty much do everything the same. If you'll notice, I work very big masses into very low masses. I work all my generalities first, and then I go into. And you might think, well, why didn't you do that on this? Well, I don't know. No, I wanted to give that because this tree is pretty dark. We can just do stuff right over it. Watch. We could throw some cloudy shapes in here. Some other cloudy shapes back here. They're really pretty. See, just right over it, see? So there was no reason for me to... Be sure to bring this right behind this boulder like this, too. Not up to it, but right behind it. And there we go. By the way, I don't know if some of you came in a little bit later, but there was a little issue. I think some of you thought that today was the first day of a new term, but this is the last day of last term, okay? So just so you know, yeah, this is the first day, this is the last day of last term. So just so you know, okay. And next term starts next week.
So get your payments in.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, no, I meant some people were paying early, and I think they thought that today was the first day. So that's just to let you know. Maybe I let that one. Maybe I advertised for that a little bit early, but I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Now.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I have a question, and just so I wouldn't forget.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. No, I just saw. As long as you know, I don't want to break the surprise out on anyone. Yes.
I'm so sorry, but you're making composite pictures, is that right? I mean, drawing from two or more.
Yeah. I always draw. This is number. I'm using this sky and everything from number 2, and this tree from number 2, and then I'm using number 1. I'm basically only using those 2. The other pictures are for fun. But if you would prefer to do one of those, they're pretty too.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to go over to Joshua number 1, and we have these really nice looking shadows on the side of the rock there. And cast shadows on the other. All right. And we have some trees. This might be interesting. Maybe we could leave a little light out for this tree and showcase it in the shadow right here. So here's a cool thing. Watch what I got an idea. Oh yeah. So we have the dark tree on the lighter background, and then we'll put a light tree on the darker background. Oh yeah, that usually works. Okay. So, and I'll just surround that tree with something darker. It'll have shadows on it. So in the watercolor, we'll leave that area light. And then we'll work into it. It's even, in fact, I'm going to take, there's a dark bush in front of this boulder right here. And I'm going to use that dark bush at the base, right behind this Joshua tree, as if it were lit. Something like that. Something. Like such. Without any detail, that's pretty decent. For me, we've got some funny beginning of a Joshua over here, which I like. And it casts a neat little shadow. And I'm using Joshua number 1 right now, and it does have some neat shadows on the ground, but Joshua 2 has better shadows on the ground. So I'm going to really get into some of those beautiful, long desert shadows, because it's so flat oftentimes. You just get these long shadows. This does have a lot of curvature to it, but let's get into some of those little shrubs and things like that. But I think this one right here is doing its job as a value study. Maybe something dark over here. I do see some dark stuff over here, but I think it needs a little bit of here for a little weight on this side, compositionally. Okay. Yeah, whatever with a little bit of nuance there. Okay, fun enough. Let's get on to the color now. This is just a color rough, this isn't a color finish or anything, so I'm going to kind of zoom right through it, like I always do. And we got my sort of V shape here.
Can you move your paper down a little?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that, you guys, when you keep me in line. Now, actually, mostly, I'll be looking at the photos for color, but for the drawing, I'm really just going to draw right off my little value study I just did. And if you'll notice, I'm sort of just doing kind of a quick sort of outline of things, and that allows me to get more color in there. If I were to just do a value study and paint right on top of my value study, it would be harder to see the color. So, something like that. Okay. And we have our neat little boulder there. Whoops, kind of goes like that. And down. And some boulders up there. I like the three round boulders in the background. I kind of overlapped them here, but I think they work. I think I want to showcase them a little bit more. So as you can see, I'm changing the composition a little bit more again. Of course you can do that. You can change anything anytime you want. I even change things in the finish. So the three amigos in there, or is it the four amigos right there? They're funny. It's such weird, interesting shapes out there. It's just amazing. All right, I ended up making these boulders bigger just to fit them in there and overlapping them. I didn't know I was going to do that. The question is, do I like it? And the answer is yes. I don't always like it, and if I don't, I'll change it. So just to let you know, nothing's set in stone. But I will myself a really interesting shape of a Joshua tree back here up against all this. All this dark shadow we're going to have in there. Something like that. Okay. And then a few little ditties up here. And just remember, you know, you're not sworn to paint exactly what I'm painting. I mean, it's your painting, you know. Some people really get that, and some people really want to just copy what I do, and that's absolutely fine if you do. I just want to let you know that, I mean, I don't have this idea that you have to paint exactly what I paint. You can use my concepts, but that costs extra. Sorry. I'm not going to apologize for my bad jokes anymore. I'm going to own them. And follow them up with a little drum beat. I got to get myself a little drum machine over here. Every time. Every time. Okay, now. And I like the clouds and number 2. Pull them right behind here. I want to do that this time. Remember, with the clouds, make sure you pull them behind things. If you take a cloud and go right up to the side of a Joshua tree and then stop, it'll look funny. Now, can you do it once in a while and it works? Sure, but in general, you want it to feel like it's behind things. So that's how I do it. Okay. And we've got this beautiful sky. I'm going to use ultramarine blue and magenta. And if you'll notice, it gets ultramarine blue and magenta, then it fades down to something yellower and yellower, then orange down at the bottom. So a little bit of that up in there. Get around the cloud if you like. In this case, I think they're a little bit hard edge clouds, so I think I'll paint around them. Something in between there. Oh, whoops. Something in there. All right, then as we come down a little bit lower, it's a lighter blue, so add water. And maybe a touch of like lemon yellow. A little bit yellow on me. Oh, that's my cloud shape. Oops. Is that right? Did that wrong. Oh. So many lines on here, I can't even see what I'm doing. Okay. Oh, wait, that's the cloud. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was right the first time, darn it. I got confused. I do that too. Okay. Something a little bit, oh, that's a lot yellower, Rob. Oh. No, I wanted that to be the clouds. I think I got confused in here. All right. So many lines, I forgot where I was. All right, so this is just for color anyway, so I'm not going to sweat it. Okay. It's down here a lot greener. Love the green in there, and then it gets almost orange at the sunset. Now here's the thing, we have orange boulders here, so this is what happens when you use color out of one that seems to work really well and maybe not in the other. We've got orange, so I don't think we need to add the orange in the sky because we already have orange boulders here. So I think I'm just going to reduce this down to sort of just the green at the base. I love green skies. One of my favorite. So Southwest too. Look at those Russell paintings or those Remington paintings. Okay. And I'm going to use a little bit of violet. Like blue violet, so in the base of my clouds. I mean, they're a little blue violet, and if you touch just a touch of yellow into it, it'll neutralize the color. So if you don't want it that gray, there we go.
Hey, so Rob, I'm a little confused. What did you just paint? Are those clouds?
Clouds.
They are? Ugh, there's so many lines.
I'm sorry about that. It's just the clouds behind it. Now use the clouds from number 2. I think I'm going to do this differently in the finish. That's okay. And that's what you learn by doing the color rough too. All right. So then on my, I got confused by my own lines, remember? I think I'm going to do I'll handle those a little bit differently. I'm going to throw in the lights on the rocks, a little bit on the orange side. Maybe a little more orange than that. And I'm going to pull them right over my shadows. Just all the rocks. Here we go. We'll call that the local color of the rocks. And it's very similar to what's going on in the dirt. So why don't we just take it over the whole thing? Yeah. Let that tack up a little bit, and then while that's tacking up, I'll get into some of these. And I don't mind if it's a little wet into wet right there. That's just fine. Just getting into some of this brush here. There's a pretty dark thing right there. I'm just using what's it called? Prussian blue and yellow for my green, and then to gray it, something on the red family. So if you throw in, like, say, magenta in there, Prussian blue, let's say cad yellow, if you just touch a little bit of magenta in there, you'll get a nice natural looking green. If you want to kick it up a notch with a little bit more saturation to the color, just get some more yellow in it. Right. tree there. And while that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and take some, like a blue violet. So just ultramarine blue and magenta again. Maybe a little bit more on the magenta side, so we get a more like. And then I'm gonna hit some shadows on the ground. Just cast shadows on the ground. Neat ones in there. On the big boulder in the background. I think that's a little bluer up there. So that really is going to showcase our yucca. I mean our Joshua tree there. These guys all have shadows on them. Maybe a couple little neat shadows here in the foreground. And we got our, of course, our tree. Now, of course, it's very gray. So you can paint it gray if you want. But you know me, I usually like to go for more of a color. I'm going to go pretty dark, but I'm going to leave some areas of light so I can hit a little bit of orange on this. And I'm using, of course, mostly ultramarine blue in this. There we go. Some of it's going to leak into my shadow, and that's really common in a color rough. Because color rough is just there's no time. There are some orange things happening up in here, so I come back and tap a little bit of orange in there. And let's get some oranges and greens on the light side of this. Some orangey things over there on the left-hand side of this tree. They're really going to show up more in the sky because we already have orange down here behind it. They've kind of got a lot of red in them too, don't they? Wow. Some red in there. I love it. Catch some of that. And that's why I might overstate that note of color, just knowing that I want to make a big deal out of it, even though it might be more subtle in the finish. So it's good to do a little study. I might do the same thing back here on this. This little guy over there. I just put some oranges because it was on my brush. I put some oranges in the light side and some ultramarine shadows. Certainly could throw some magenta into that shadow. But I don't want it to destroy all my little lights. There we go. Good enough. Here's a little sneaky trick too. you come back and hit a little in the background, hit a little bit darker up against your lights there, really pop in. See, I'm just taking my shadow a little bit darker behind the light part of my little Joshua tree there. It can help. I just kind of nestle it around and sneak it in and out of places just because I don't want it to be all by itself. And then to finish, like usually in a watercolor, you'll want to hit something dark. And I'm seeing a lot of dark down at the base of things, like down here at the base. And at the base of some of this, I'm using Prussian blue. Did note that there was a little bush back here, yeah, on my other one, to help showcase that tree a little bit more. There's a little bit of dark at the base of these little guys too. Usually right when the shadow begins too, because a lot of the tree might be blocking any light. You might get it pretty dark, a little dark in the shadow right there. And then it gradually gets a little bit lighter as it gets farther away from your object. And occasionally what you can do is just tag a little bit of that dark. See how I get a little separation in there? If you need a little separation, sneak a dark in there like that. Here and there. Unless we're getting some darks in here. Probably use a lot more green up there too. There's my coloration. And a color rough is simply just a rough idea of how you want your color to look.
Rob, I missed the color you did on your rocks. You're so beautiful.
Well, thanks. I did orange, a yellowy orange in the lights. And then I came back with something a little more, I used ultramarine blue and magenta, but I think I used a little bit more, magenta in there. And the reason I just hit that dark right there is because I want a little more separation between the rock and clouds in the background. And I'll do that like this. And look at great master paintings, and you'll see they'll sneak those little tricks in there. You know, and if you're just a normal observer, you won't notice. But if you do this stuff and you've studied it, and then you go look for it, and you go, oh, wow, now I understand why this person's so revered. It's so sneaky the way they do that. A couple of cracks in there. I think you're good. I think we're good. All right. Fun times. Okay, so we got a plan. That's all that was a plan. That's all. So I'm going to put that over to the side. I got my watercolor paper here. Watercolor paper for the finish. Yours as big as you like. Mine's about that big, 8 by 10 or something like that, close. Okay. Get your handy dandy napkins ready. Okay, and I think I'm going to just start drawing out my boulders. Oh, that's a little large. Well, let's just see. Hopefully. My funny boulders there. And when I draw these, I usually leave myself lots of open area to play with paint. Let the paint do the work. The paint is your Think of it like a, you know, it's your worker bee. You're the guide. Okay. All right. I don't need to overdraw all this. Okay. I have this one. I like that little, I'm on number 1. There's a little crack in between the boulders there, which I really like. All these little steps. Okay. And then we have our small little Joshua tree that we're going to kind of showcase over here. I'm going to make mine sort of like that. Okay. And I think I'm going to throw in our big one first before I throw in the clouds. Do my clouds around it. In fact, I'm not even going to draw in the clouds. We're going to wing it, okay? Take them both right off. Yeah. And oftentimes, this is all the drawing I'll do. I'll do the rest of the stuff with the brush. It's oftentimes so much better. You don't have to draw a line around everything. You can just paint a nice thick line. But I want to know where it is, so I'll put these in as sort of just indicator lines. But I know I want it approximately about this thick, somewhere in there, so I'll let myself know. Around that thick. And then this one. Three little guys coming off it. Something like that. Just kind of outlining it. Okay. Then we've got all kinds of little beautiful, wonderful little sticks and weeds and stuff growing up all over the place. Stuff over there. I don't want to get too. All I want to know is what is it and where is it for now. We've got a little mini, kind of a little mini tree going on there. We have something, and that's about it. As far as the drawing go, I don't want to, it's already getting cluttered. And so much of this can be solved with the brush and the color, so you don't have to overdraw things. So I think what will really set the tone of this is, let's just start off with that sky, and I'm going to kind of lay it in quickly and then pat out my highlights on my clouds with a handy dandy, what do you call it, paper towel. Okay. And let's just throw that in there. I do wish that was a little bluer. around things and around. Just let that go. And there we go. And then I'm going to add little bits of like I think cad. I'm going to go with cad yellow, a little warmer yellow as we get down toward the base there. Like a twilight sky here. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead right now and just pat out a few of these little cloudy shapes. Oh, I could have panned out a little bit more on that. Oh, there we go. I have this at a subtle angle, just so you know. So, right, so it's a little higher up here, a little lower down here, so I can see my painting. So I'm just patting out a few of these little cloudy shapes in there. Might get a little bit yellower toward the bottom. Just let the watercolor be watercolor. Let it do its thing. Couple little cloudy shapes back there. Things in here. Oh, well, while that's drying up, I can come back in my shadows. Now, if you'll notice, the shadows and the clouds are much darker toward the bottom of your page. As they get toward the horizons, you know, right in here, why do the shadows get darker? Because the sky gets lighter. They're not darker, but you don't get as much contrast up here. So, I'm going to think about, they're very purple shadows, so I'm going to just throw in a few of those. And I don't mind if it just leaks into the rest of the sky like that right there. It's fine. So where it wasn't as wet, it'll give you more of a hard edge. Where it's really wet, it'll give you a soft edge. And if you like that, you can come in with a wet brush. You might want to just keep an extra wet brush handy. And if you like this sort of dissipation here, you can just take a little water around the outside like that. There we go. Here, this needs to be a little brighter here, so I'll hit that with a little bit more with my rag. There we go. Having a good time. And that's the main thing. And it does get kind of a yellowy orange in the lights. We certainly could wait on that. I mean, but I like what happens when you paint it wet into wet. Sometimes you might get things dissolving into things like that. You know, I'm just using like a yellowy orange. If you want to know what colors to use to make the yellowy orange, just use yellow and orange. No, I'm just joking. We got to keep that drum machine around. No, you know, yellow, cad red will give you that. Sorry about that. So I keep apologizing. Why am I apologizing? Because I know you're rolling your eyes going, please. Give up the comedy routine, dude. Okay. So that was really wet, and it got down. It kind of pushed out some of my shadowy things. I can fix them later, or I can fix them now. I'll throw a little bit more in there now. See, just a little touch, Play with it, and then of course watercolor is going to do its beautiful organic thing to it, which we all love about watercolor. So just let it happen. Remember, the more you try to control this, the more the watercolor will try to rebel on you, okay? So what you want to do is you have loose ideas about things. Like I have this general pattern of light and shadow on my sky, and a general pattern of light and shadow on my clouds. And then I just let the paint do what it wants to do. I can never plan that, but I particularly like all the watercolor effects, as I'm sure many of you do, because that's why we like watercolor, I would hope. Sure does get quite yellowy in that sky too. And that's something I could glaze in at any moment, but watch this, it just touch, see? Little touches, see? Little smidges of yellow in that sky can really get to work. All right, moving along. I think the local color of those boulders on Joshua Tree number 2, kind of an orange. If you want to call it beige, you can call it beige. And then all that means is you got an orange with a touch of blue in it. So that the blue, because they're complementary colors, the blue will neutralize that orange. So see, I'm throwing it on there pretty strong. Just again using yellow and red. Oops, get it right over my darn secondary focal point there. Of course, the big tree being the main focal point. I think that's pretty well understood, since it's standing right in front of you, waving its hand saying, look at me. I'm the big tree. What a dramatic tree, huh? We'll just call him Hollywood. All right. You know, when I was doing sets and stuff, oh my gosh. When I used to be on the set, even the drama around there was hilarious. And the actors but sometimes worse, the other artists were even worse than the actors. Drama. Okay. And I was the art director, so I had to say, get to work. We got work to do. No fun babysitting drama queens. All right. And I'm just going to bring a lot of that down.
I'm chuckling.
It was fun sometimes.
It's hard to be a comedian when your audience is on mute, you know, because you just don't get any great feedback. But we're all laughing here, Rob.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad. Thank you very much.
You're very entertaining.
Well, hey, you know, I try to do all I can. So we got a lot of red in this soil, a lot of iron in the soil, I think. So a lot of yellows, and what we're gonna do is way up here in the foreground. Watch me just dig in. Watch this. Just dig in. Get some serious saturation. Full on CAD yellow. cool thing about those is that when you want to paint your greens, you can just paint them right over because they just blend right in because the greens have yellow in them. So I could paint this right. I think I will paint it right over this bush and all these too. You know what? Here's a sneaky little trick. Oh my God. I know I say this every time. I'm giving you my best secrets. No, I know you know this one already. Not really that sneaky, but while it's on your brush, and of course I'm lazy, let's paint in some highlights on our tree on the left-hand side of our tree. Bring it right in there. A little bit of red in there. I noticed there was a lot of red. Just tell me they're going to be on the top left hand, top left, and like that. Then when we throw in our shadows, we'll have a little light for it to bounce off, and then we'll get jazzy with it, you know? So I'll take these right up and over into my shadows, knowing full well that 50% of that's lost in the shadow. There we go. Thinking ahead here. All right. Well, I'm liking this land. And if I like to lay in, usually it's going to work. If I don't like to lay in and I'm right in the middle of the class, I try to tell a whole lot of jokes. Because I know you're thinking, this one's kind of yours. This might not be your best one, Rob. Maybe you should have stayed home today. No, okay, so I'm just going to throw some. We got a few little ditties over here. Why don't we? That's kind of a grayish bottom on this one, but maybe I'll start it off. Touch on the greenish side. A good green is always Prussian because it's a green blue. But you know, if you have manganese or indigo or cerulean, some other really that'll work too. And yellow, of course. Oh, look, I forgot to put my yellowy highlights on my fun little tree back here. Yeah, that might have been the smart move. Because I should have just pulled this right over. Let's just pull it right on the tree there. Because we're going to make shadow over this whole thing. Yeah. Let that tack up. Back to I am going to I'm going to mute myself and hit this with a hairdryer real quick. Now that way you don't have to hear that. Okay. Now I'm going to come up with since we seem to like that color that I use in the shadows on the, ultramarine blue, and a touch of magenta, and it should do the trick. It's okay, just add water. Get that right up on your sky like that. And it lightens up right away. And right around my little couple little sub shadows over here, no big deal. A couple little things happening over there. I'm just going to take this color and move it along. Have some more things happening back here. On some of these shadows over here, if you don't want really hard edges, you can just make a wet brush. Whoops, that was too wet. I'm going to get a giant water spot right here. That's one of those accidents. Who knows? Who knows how that's going to work? But anyway, you can soften that edge just like that if you want. Just with water. You get a big water spot right there. I didn't count on it, but let's see if we can capitalize on a happy accident, right? All right. Got a soft edge here on this little log. All right, we got this one. I'm thinking it's asking for a little bit more magenta. So I aim to please. There's your magenta. Because it's a warm rock. Warm time of day, probably a warmish. Even though the shadow's cooler than the light, it's still warmish. All right. And maybe a little, I can just fade that out, adding a little bit of water to the edge, just to soften that edge. Just remember, keep that wet brush around. You know, Henry tells me that a lot of the Chinese masters paint like this, like that. I think that's great. And you know, sometimes when I'm going really fast, I didn't even realize it until the other day. I do that, and I didn't realize I do that. I started thinking, hey, how cool is that? Maybe I'm doing it just because you told me. Maybe Henry, you put like subliminal messages in my head. But I love it. I love the idea of just keeping one handy like this. And then for a wet one, I could just go like that, a little wet edge like that. I like that. Especially when you're laying things in. There's not all kinds of time to do things. Oops. Just a wet edge, just to fade this edge into the light. Form shadow edge. There we go. I'm just going to start off with some neat little shadows on the ground, like so on. It's on my brush. Might as well try to use it. There's a few. I'm going to have like a shadow coming from outside the painting in. I'm dry brushing that edge so it looks kind of softer edged. Okay, that's probably enough for now. It's fun though. Now let's get into some of this. Let's just think the shadow side of this big old guy here in the foreground. It's looking kind of blue-violet. I think I'm going to start this one off crazy blue-violet and see what happens. That's a bit dark too. Always add water. All right. They have kind of a rough edge too, kind of a rough bark. All right, then I just with a wet edge there. I'm just gonna something like that. And occasionally maybe throw a little bit of red or magenta just to break up the monotony of the color of this, just like that. Just hit it around and let the water do the rest. The water will netch. This is what's so great about watercolors, that the water will do it for you. But when I'm palette knifing, I do the same thing, and I let the palette knife do the work when I'm doing oil. Or it could be like Hector and palette knife in watercolor. I saw some really cool, I saw that on the internet, on YouTube. I saw someone palette knifing in watercolor, doing some pretty nifty things. Should I try a palette knife? I have one. Where's that? There's one. I don't know what I could do with it in here. We would probably get some of those edges, huh? Yeah, look at that. Pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, great way to get, well, really good for these brushy edges. Yeah. All right, some there, some up there. Sneak a little sky in here. Just to close up that area, close up a few gaps. Might get a little leakage in there, and I actually don't care. I think it looks great. But the attitude is, if you think it looks great and you're relaxed about it, it usually works. It's when you get all uptight on things and you start overworking everything. That's when you'll run into issues. Just sort of have this c'est la vie kind of attitude, and so much of watercolor just takes care of itself. Like that big water spot I put in, this thing's still wet. I think it's fine. I might glaze over it again later, but I'm interested to see what will happen. Okay, now maybe I should put down one of these because I'm holding all three in one hand. I'm like, that's not gonna work. So I'll put down the palette knife for now. All right. We have some green. Greenish stuff. In the, I'm still working on this stuff here. And all right. This one coming over there, that's nice. Silhouette. I think on a lot of these too, some dry brushing, so just spread your bristles apart a touch, and just kind of edges, edges. rule in here too. There are no rules. No, no. I was just going to say, generally speaking, if you get the value right, you can throw any color in there you want. So for a lot of these colors in here, feel free to use greens and purples and whatever you like. I would stay away from using black though, because it's just such a non-color. It tends to kill the color of your shadows. I've done paintings where I got away with it and it looked pretty good. But usually it was when I added it to another color, like I'll take black and red and make a ruddy red or something. It's so unimaginative. So if you have a dark color like a Prussian blue or a violet or something like that, it's usually a better option. But most people will go for the black because they're just, maybe their mind's just thinking value or something like that. A little bit of blue in there. Maybe a different blue, like a Prussian blue. It's kind of a greener blue. That's fun. Some of these greens in here. Mostly on the shadow side. Here. Just a lot of red too in those shadows. Or red in the shadows and the halftones. So halfway in between the shadow and the light. You might get some serious red in there. That's what I'm going to do with my reds. Just going to flow right in there. Right in there. Just get some serious red. That adds some drama. You remember that? Does anyone remember that painter from like the 70s and the 80s? Bill Alexander? Not Bob Ross. I think Bill Alexander taught Bob Ross. I think that's the thing. But no, I mean, do you remember him? He's like, fire in the mighty colors. He's like this German guy. I saw him on PBS not too long ago. I couldn't believe it. I haven't seen him in decades. I don't remember his voice being that high, but anyway, like, wow, I used to watch him so blown away when I was a kid. I wanted to fire in me some mighty colors. Just like that. You wouldn't believe how many of the students nowadays just love Bob Ross. I mean, every high school kid in my classes, they know who he is. He is a big deal. Sometimes I'll play him in class and they're always, no, leave it on, leave it on. It's great. Developing shadows here, get some darks in here. Darks deep in there. So I don't always hit my darks at the very end, but just let your instincts tell you when to throw those in. But generally, you want to get your lights in first in a watercolor. Just as a general idea, but all right, this is a little bit fatter there. This casts a shadow over this. So. Okay. I like bark, like chipping off things on my trees and whatever. I don't like them. This one's kind of perfect looking, but I'm sure this, or whatever. All right, so I'm not thinking edges yet. That's why they look like little balls on the end. I'm going to let that tack up a little bit. And go for some of the vegetation. So let's get some green things. Now, make your green. If you have a green, use that. But if you don't, use Prussian blue and like a cad yellow. And then I like to throw a little bit of red in there. Cad red. Especially this time of day. It's going to be a redder color. Some of those greens, and just vary your greens as you throw them in. Varying degrees of yellow and red in your greens. And you'll get lots of nice, natural looking greens. I want to show off a lot of this desert ground, but it's got some beautiful looking greenery to it too. So I'm just gonna throw in notes of color. Around downhills and things like that. And a lot of the brush in the foreground gets kind of dead. You can do it any way you like. You make it all green or make it all dead. If I like, this is why I put a lot of stock in. You'll hear me say this almost every time. Get good at painting paths and weeds and rocks. Just go out and paint those on a regular basis. And if you don't have time to get out and do that, just go on Google and download them. Paths and weeds and rocks. Stuff that's in almost every painting. Here's one of those trees that is kind of coming up to this. I'm sorry, bush. It's kind of coming up to this. I'm thinking maybe it's a better idea just to bring it right behind. Because I want a little bit of follow through in there. Maybe I'll just bring it right behind both. Yeah, just kind of makes it feel like it's in front of it. And then there's just all this brush. And I would dry brush most of the brush in. Just dry brush like that. So you can do a million weeds in a few seconds. So it's important to think overlapping, think arrangement. Where do you want them? Don't just slap them everywhere. Try not to make exactly the same size of these clusters of weeds. If you're getting a lot the same size, just bring a few together. And there's a couple of dark ones in there I really like. I really like occasionally when you have like a little, one of those little guys happening there. They're all over. They're just little features. sticks and branches and broken. It's a desert. Everything's stressed out. That's why it's so beautiful. Put a little bit of shadow on this side of my yucca. That's pretty dark for that far away. Hit that with a rag. Something like that. There's some dark at the base of a lot of these bushes and things will have something dark at the base. That, down here. Just hit them at the base. Yeah, there's all kinds of little things happening back up here. So I didn't know where I was going to throw a lot of those things. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. Based on what I'm looking at, I don't really usually copy exactly what I'm looking at. I'm going for my own take on the situation. And so I'm going to throw in some nice shadows on the ground. I think I'm going to go a little bit bluer than that. Some more shadows on the ground, more cast shadows. They're really long this time of day. Put them at the base of your bushes too. You know, we're getting toward the end when you start thinking about edges. And there we go. And so just playing with the edges there. Here, I'll crop in on that for you. See, I'm just touching those edges in there. Use different colors too. I'm going to switch to like a Prussian and, you know, whatever else is on my brush. And just, it's good. It's a little wet for me. So I'm going to dry my brush out a little bit, just wipe a little bit off on the rag. And usually when you can spread your brush apart like that, and you're in business. A bit lighter over here. I'll tag a little green on that later. Give a little overlapping once in a while. Tag some of these just right up and over your lights. It could be a few little shadows here and there. Right over that. Overlapping. Always think, I know I had these right beside each other, but I am taking some of these, overlapping this one, and some of these overlapping that one. It's extra. Oh boy, that's fun. Mine needs a little bit more contrast. Yeah. A couple of those. Just sweep them up. There I go. I'm starting to salivate again. Either I'm hungry for lunch or that's my color thing inside of me saying, ooh, yummy, yummy, yummy. That is fun. So I hardly ever hit one stroke at a time. I usually do a series of like, whatever you call these little fronds, palm fronds or something. I don't know what they're called. Blades. I usually do a whole bunch at once, like this, you know, a whole bunch. I don't sit there and do one at a time. You could, I guess, but I think it looks a little labored. Let the brush do the work. That's what happens. The more and more you paint, the more and more you realize the water does the work, the brush does the work. That's painting. You know, getting like this on with your brush and hyper rendering every little detail like this. That's why they call it rendering. Rendering is more of a different attitude for painting. Some painters think it's not even painting. I've done everything. I've done rendering and they both definitely have their differences. And anyway, more fine arts painting right here. You know, I would just get at one with the brush, at one with the paint, and see what happens. Just look for that brushiness. There we go. And then of course you know you're getting toward the end of the painting when you're smacking those darks, right? Smack them. Show them who's boss. You know, watercolors are always so timid when it comes to hitting those darks. You gotta get in there and make it pop. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to pan out. Make it pop. Get some of those darks in there. And other darks. Darks just come back and reinforce. I have some little darks in my folder in there, and so I wouldn't want to get too dark with them, but Some little fracture marks can be really, really fun. And so at the end of the painting is when you hit those little characteristics in there. Anything you like, you can spend all kinds of time throwing those in there. It's the best. I try to do them with as minimal effort, so you're using as little they call it economy of stroke, or economy of, they just call it economy. And in this case, so you're nailing the value and the color and the edge in a stroke. And that becomes, that is a big thing in painting, As far as technique goes anyway, I mean, when it comes down to technique, it's what you're getting accomplished in a stroke becomes very much a big deal. But more than anything, and that's a technical thing, by the way, but more than anything, it's really, how does the painting make you feel? Was the artist, can you feel the artist being involved in the painting? Usually really just taken away. So I'm describing the plane of the rocks with some intuitive strokes going up this way and some climbing across the top of the. So for the user that have used guys that have taken my drawing class, you see I'm describing the plane of the face of this rock. Whoa. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
So the plane, I'm bringing some little strokes going up the side and then some over the top, some up the side, some up the top, like stair steps. Boom, 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 boom. And those become explanatory. And you'll see them, they're there. But it's different when you've mapped out things with line. You'll see. Your eyes be open. All the darks in there. Just some fun little descriptive marks. Again, I can see it over here on this wonderful. This has got a curvature to this rock right here, and then it just sort of falls down. Could have put some more vegetation in front of it, probably. And this is when you just, it's a party now. It's, what do you want to do? Let's see, we pan out on this thing. What's neat is that I'm looking at what you're looking at, but I'm looking at it at about 2 inches because I have my picture on my screen and I have this off to the right. And so I can see it really small. And so by looking at it really small, I can see differences in it. Things that I didn't realize before, little hiccups and, like for instance, there's a little sky that I could probably pop through these trees right there. Little edges. Now I don't always hit. I love the white of the page sticking out too. That also adds to the freshness. So you don't want to kill all that. That's why you see all these artists using white. And that works for oils or anything. It's the freshness. It's such a modern idea to love the freshness, but it's not just modern painting. Look at Sargent. I mean, probably the freshest painter out there. Just one stroke and boom. One stroke and done. Okay, we'll darken the base of a few of these. Yeah, with little explanatory searching strokes. couple little darkies in there. Don't get them too dark though. Hey, fun. And that's when I go and look at other things. So I'll look broken branches, paths, and that's why I like to work on a lot of different photos. Now, there's just all of these wonderful little guys in there, little twiggy things. They're everywhere. Rocks, whatever you like. Sometimes when I have a big area like this, I'll just dry brush through. Just add a little roughage to it, just to look a little blank. Use a little bit of something on the ground, but sometimes it's just a quick little dry brush. Just a dry brush edge. Nice hole. Just a dry brush edge. And here's a trick too. If I want my boulders to pop away from the mountains a little bit, from the sky a little bit, I'll tag the outside edge here, just a touch. Just in the shadow there. I have a little white right there. You know, oftentimes I'll just leave it in. Adds to the freshness. But it just as easily, you take another color and just kind of so it's all about the fixing. All right, Henry. Do I wet this page? I want to use your stamp. I'm going to put it right here. Or is that too much of the piece? Let's see. Maybe I'll put it down here. Because it won't show up on this dark thing right here. Let's see.
Rob, just put on the corner, the light parts on the, let me see which color. Yeah, just on the corner, right here. Yeah.
Like up here?
No, lower right or left.
Okay. You guys, Henry made this for me, you know, like I think I've told you that, right? I don't want it to be too wet, right?
That's true. Just damp. Yeah.
This is my name in Chinese.
Yeah, Sherrill.
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 Is the R's the L and the L's the R or what? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's try to get this on there. Okay, please. I know I won't do this as good as you, but I'm trying to figure out, okay, looks like the top part's there. Please work for me.
Press very hard down. Yeah, because it's better to put some book under, but it's okay. You got thick paper, right? Yeah, straight down.
Okay.
Very hard. Okay, just lift up straight up. Yeah. Don't.
Hey,
yeah,
that's cool.
Okay.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love that.
Good job. You can sign over it actually, but that's
Henry made this for me. He's one of the few people that can do this, you guys. This is carved in stone.
Yeah, it's soapstone, but it's not really soft as soap. It's just the name of the stone. Appearance like a soap.
He wrote my name Chinese.
Yeah, that's upside down. The other way. All right, this way. Yeah.
So it's the name.
Yeah. The first letter, the family name She, but also means to thank.
To think?
Yeah.
That's what Sherrill means?
The first the family name is She. Yeah, She means to thank. Yeah. Thankful to thank. Yeah. Li means mile, or just a man. Yeah.
I'll write my name. There's my signature. Right next to it.
I'm going to do the same thing on the same corner. So
thank you.
Thank you.
East meets West, and let me tell you, there's no better medium than watercolor for that. Both cultures have this past, and they both. There's just, and then, all the things I've learned from you, Henry, have really opened me up.
I learned a lot from you.
These brushes, I've been using his brushes. I mean, I don't know how many paintings I've done with this signature brush, but it won't quit on me. It won't quit.
I think you. Yeah, that's General Wang's calligraphy brush. We got 3 sizes. That's probably the small one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Small one. It's a General
Wang. Here's my finger, so I don't know if it's that small, but
it's about 1 inch, a little less than inch.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, I'm using a sable brush. Sable, yeah. That one is Weasel. This one is Weasel or Sable. I'm not sure. Let me.
Weasel, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys. So, how about we come back here at 12:15 for the crit? Okay. Paint your heart out, and then I'll make fun of you and destroy you. No, I'm just joking. Come on. No, we'll do the crit, and I'll give you my 2 cents as usual. Okie dokie.
All right. See you at 12:15.
12:15. All right.
Okay. See you.
Turn the recording off. Please remember to ask me to turn the recording back on. Although I have a big note right here that says, Rob, wake up. Turn your recording on. So.
Okay, let me put my painting on the table so you can see the whole thing. I'm sorry that it was not. I tried to keep the demo in the same place, so I couldn't. This is very big size. I'm working on today's Arches 140 pound, 10 by 14. So it's like legal size, right? Okay, it's much bigger because I feel, the chi requires larger paper, the energy. Watercolor usually do so small work when they do work outside. So I don't know if I get that feel. Let me just see. I got some blur there, so I added this tree just to taking care of that. There's some yellow right there. I think we should give it another branch. The reasoning is a very important principle of Chinese painting. You have to follow everything has to have a reason, same as the nature itself. So we don't just create something abnormal or does not. Just give some reason for that yellow, so taking care of that. So this kind of thing is really unplanned. It just happened, but sometimes it's the best part, the accident. at this stage, I'm doing something called fine tuning, maybe. So I think I see better on the screen than on the table, because it's a mirrored image, maybe. My screen is mirrored, and also it's smaller, so that's very important. You look at your near complete painting in the distance, so you can see the overall qi, or we call it the energy flow, and then remember where to dark. Like right now, I see this area looks dark, and we can add more dark there. Maybe something here on this time. This V is just too strong to break the space, so we need to have some kind of interference to make it a little not so strong. So that's why this one may help a little bit. And this one actually breaks that line also, from the behind, this tree behind. It should be farther away, but I just add a little blue, so it would recede. Blue is behind the brown in watercolor theory, color theory. Okay, let me just add some darks. Okay, to that photo again. The photo really looks dark. Here could be some shadow in the branches. I want to squeeze out this tree. It's too blue. So make it warmer. So I kind of just blend it on the paper. You can use this palette knife to scratch some grass like that. I lost the white, so I used the gouache here. And then you can also scratch It's not easy to do because the color is not at the right stage to do that. Or too thick with gouache, maybe that's the reason. I really can't see much here on the paper, right? I can see clearly there's some. You can start to talk. Actually, I can unmute you guys. Who's Esther? Esther. Okay. You don't have to have a camera or microphone as long as you can hear me and watch me doing it. You can use your phone and the computer at the same time, so you can talk through your phone. There's a actually, I didn't send you the phone numbers, but you can call in with your phone to talk if you want. But I think it's perfectly fine. You just communicate from with English writing and chat. So yeah, it should be okay without a microphone, without a camera. It's okay. You can still take the class. I wonder, how do you teach your class? You can use the same equipment. You know, your phone is probably what do you do, right? With your own class, watercolor class. So you can use your phone if you want. You can use multiple device, one phone, one computer. You can use computer to watch my demo and use your phone to show your own work. Maybe take pictures and send to me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this take a picture with my phone and send to the teacher. However, we prefer not to use email because I got like a 30 or I think 20 something student. So email communication is just too much to keep track. So I prefer to use the website. Let me go to the website right now to show you how it works. Okay, and then to go to Chinese brush painting. Here's my keyboard. ChineseBrushPainting.link.com. So here we go. Let me share the screen now. Where's my dude? Okay, here we go. Okay, you're looking at the screen of my website, or with Victoria actually painting and the calligraphy. I just added this class, new class, lesson 60 if we need to number them, but this will be more than one class, so I hesitate to number to put it on a DVD. It's impossible. We'll have 10 classes, 20 hours. So you use this, you join this group, and then we have general questions regarding to the class. So I already answered some questions how to conduct the class and what brushes to use. Okay, I'll reply any questions later, but let me just show you. I will create individual lessons, like lesson 1's introduction, materials, basic strokes on painting rocks. So this is because I use this web forum, so I can update it and modify it. If I make a typo, I can correct it. If I send you the email, or something, I cannot change. If I change mind, I always change my mind last minute. So I keep updating this, modify this work before and after the class. So I will upload the demos here, and right now you can read this general this introduction is by the Wall Street Journal. It has very useful resources on this subject matter, Chinese landscape painting. And you see, this is very important paragraph. It mentioned my name and introduced mentioned two classes, X-cut and the Dragon Man mountains. So maybe we'll talk about the X-cut. You can take a look of that if you want. So that's the one of the handouts, I will say. It just come in time. It was published last week. Good advice and a free advertisement for me. Right? Okay. So this is the class. And let me just show you how to upload a picture. I'll show you the whole process here. Let me close this window. Stop sharing. Okay. So say if this is my my practice, right? For our class. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a picture with my phone. I can just use natural light, or I have some lamps to give good lighting. I think the daylight light is best, you know, not yellow tone or anything. So I take a picture of this. Oh, I haven't signed it. Let me just do it like real. So I'm going to submit this to the teachers. I'm going to sign this first before I take a picture, so everybody knows who's the painter. I just use my initial. Oh, he used my stamp. I can use that also. Okay, I just use a small stamp. By the way, if you that stamp the teacher used was a little bit too big. I think even, you know, for this larger painting, I'll use just a small stamp like that. And I just use ink. He learned from me that he dampened the paper so it was softer for pressing. But if you press really hard with a small stamp, it's easier. Larger stamp, it's more difficult. Just press really hard into the paper texture, so it will not show the grains. Okay, really hard. I almost hurt my finger. You can see. Okay, now I have a perfect stamp. Right? You don't have to use. I mean, we won't use any watercolor paper in my class, but this is still doable. You can use watercolor paper to use the stamp. So now I'm going to take a picture of this. Okay, let me see. I need to fix one thing. I think you can see there's this edge. I see there's a little kind of like shadow, kind of contour that gives some more definition, maybe better. It has some kind of cracks. I don't know if it's good, but it's just lighting it. Cast shadow, something like that. Oh, he's still adding the shadows there. I'm doing the same thing. Okay, good. So you can still see the demos there. I tend to paint my darks very early on. That's my Chinese habit. So I don't have to really add darks. Usually I lighten my darks. Usually the darks I put on is already over. So I use gouache to lighten it in most cases. Like here, maybe too dark already. All right. Oops, got some extra dots. That's fine. Just make that line a little softer. Okay. It's very easy at this point to overdo things. And just take a picture for the record. I will keep changing it, even I take the picture, submit it. Still, you know, after his critique, I do my final touch. I can see this yellow bothers me. It still pop to the front. I need to put some green, gray, something to make it recede. This part, this rock, just too yellowish, maybe. Maybe too blue, but the yellow just shows still. Yes, just the glaze of the gouache, very diluted gouache. I like the line he added there. A little bit, it's like the Chinese contour shaping that we're going to do. I missed that big slope. It should be a little higher like that. Just divide that. Maybe. There's no end. You start to change, especially when you come back from field. It's a taboo to touch your work. I think usually it's not going to produce anything good. I have to fake it, the highlights. You could really see these things from the camera. Okay, I'm going to stop. Okay, say I have this photo on my phone. I can use my file to transfer it, or I can just send myself an email. That's the easiest. If it's only one image, I just share. Let me see, go to my gallery, or you know how to send an image from phone to your email, right? Actually, that's how we do it to submit the work. But before I do that, I need to add it to the orientation. Let's make sure it's oriented correctly. So this is like that. And I just submit it to the teacher and CC. Okay, I just sent it to my teacher. So I have a copy this in the sent photo. That's what I do. Oops. Email program. And then I open my email and then save it to my computer. So there's many ways you can do to save your picture on to transfer your picture to the computer. I'll write the title for his critique session. Henry's painting. Okay. Okay, so I send it. Now I check my email. Save it to my I use webmail, so every computer can access it. Oh, yeah, in the sent folder. Okay, so I don't have to send to myself. I just send to someone and I got copy in my sent folder. So I download it. It's pretty good. Okay, now I download the picture to my, it will be in my download folder. Now, let me show you how to do it. I'm going to open, just remember the name of the file. It has the date, it's easy to see. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to upload to the class, right? Where's my website? Okay. Go back to my I have to open another window. So join the class. Okay, I need to let me see how we do it. Let's just do each class I design differently, but for this one, maybe this is how we do it. So in this lesson, we can just reply to this lesson 1, first class. I'll maybe call it that because there are too many lesson 1s. Maybe we just call landscape lesson 1 or something like that. I'll change that later. So all the reply will be here. So I can insert a picture is my preferred way. So I don't have to look at the attachment. But if you cannot do this like this, I think I didn't share it, did I? Okay, there we go. Let me do it again. So in the classroom, go to the Chinese landscape painting 10 Zoom class, and then first class introduction, rocks. You reply to this. Oops, I didn't write anything, so you won't. So upload your homework. You can do it why, within the class sometime, so I can take a look before the class, even to give you critique even in the class, if you can do this. The 2000, let me see, where do I find that image we did today? 2000, okay, here we go. This one. It's uploading, and then I'll put a number to get to the width. By default is 2, and by default is 750. So I just reduce that by half, so it's 350. You can input any number, and you see if you don't define the number, it will be the width of this table. Okay, this is my picture I just did. So you can take a good look if you are a member of this group. Just join this, and you can see what I just did on my table. It's different than what you see on the. And that's a much larger picture, right? Then you can even see more detail. Wow, I can. So it's very different than what I see here. And my signature right there. Okay. So I can then follow you with a critique. If you have more than one work, you can. Let me see. Let me just close. Okay. You can reply to your own reply. So you can reply to to your own post to add more. So everybody has one string. You don't have to create new strings. But if you don't, it's okay also. So you can add more. Like I said, you can also upload the pictures. If you don't see, if this image icon does not work on your device, like iPad, you might have to use upload with this function. So it will choose file, and then you select the file, and you click OK, and you can write something. Just write something, and then you have to write something. Otherwise, it won't let you submit, I think. So I just replied to my own discussion, and you can see this is the same picture, right? Oh, this thing cannot get on. Oops. Okay. So what do I do? So back. Okay. Yeah, you can use the upload attachment. If none of these methods work, you can go to gallery and then just add photos. It's guaranteed to work with all devices. So you just choose file from your phone up to 10 pictures. So that will be outside the classroom, the class forum, but I can still find your work. I can upload, transfer to the forum. So if you, here's tomorrow's class. And today's class is as you know, here, virtual Plein. So this is parallel. So you can take both. This is free. Like today, you can do the Western watercolor with Rob Sherrill's class, and you can watch me doing it. And the next day we do Chinese. it's good to compare the different approaches. Behind me, you can, let me stop this. You can see my Chinese painting right behind me, a framed painting, and I have put a link with this class, today's lesson. You can watch how I did that plein air painting on the ground. I put a mat right over the on the sand on the sandy ground, and then just paint it on the ground right in the scene like this. So it's very different. I poured my water and ink on the paper. It dries pretty fast. And just get the right tone. Very nice. The painting I love. So I framed it. So on a full moon night festival, and I wrote a poem there. So it's very important to paint a special moment, or memory, or very give you some emotional call, So if you're moved yourself, painting will give the impact to others, the viewers, if you like it, in the beginning. If you like to stress your mood or feeling, it's very different than just the scenic painting, Try to find emotional connections with the theme and share that with your viewers. Okay, so we have like a 14 minutes before the critique. Maybe I do something about Chinese painting, and then we will see what brush to use tomorrow, maybe. Is that a good idea? Okay, so the paper I prefer is semi-sized or rough, like a mulberry paper. This is a hemp paper. This is, let me just put this on. This is the regular paper, the unsized rice paper is very absorbent, bleeding. You can see that. And this one would be less. Okay, let me just put a computer paper under it. This is semi-sized paper. Let me just put on the top of that. We'll do two pennies together. Okay, so I will use this brush I used today is the sable, right? Sable hair. So I'll use ink, the calligraphy ink. And we need a surface to, I can just use in this way, I cannot see the tone, but I have experience, and I can test on this paper, say how dark or how light it is. So, but since I got dark, I just start with the tree. We usually start from the dark, and I just go with. So see, this kind of brush can last very long without reload. So you do it in one single load until exhausted. Don't reload. You got all the variations. And dry brush. All right. And make this one a little drier, right? It's thinner, so it's the guest. This is more like the, not necessary. They are both belong to the host plant. So just different. This one is leaner. This is a little fat. So and this one goes down a little bit, lighter. It's good to limit your resource, the ink. Ink is treated as gold. That's an aesthetic value, not the, to be economic on ink. You can pour ink if you need, but this phrase, ink is considered gold in Chinese painting because we use limited, just like a limited palette, limited ink, create more variations actually than too much ink. So you see that gives you variation from wet to dry. So basically that's because I used only one load, one drop of ink so far. Now I work on the rock. I will make sure this time the ink is lighter and squeeze out the extra. And then you always need a piece of paper like that. So you know how dry, how dark, how light it is. And you can go back to load a little more. But I don't vary the ink on the brush in this case, because for the rock we don't need to. We can try to use the X cut here. In the video I did many years ago, I used the piston brush, those little with the reservoir. That brush actually made of artificial hair, stiff hair, and it works better than this natural hair.
Okay, everybody.
Okay, I think that's
Let's start taking photos of your work and email them to me. Let's see.
Make sure I mute it so I can talk to you guys. Not I'll just make a quick sketch. Distant mountains, distant wash.
All right, we've got a lot of here already.
it do the sky in Chinese painting, but let me try just for fun. I just washed my palette.
All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people so far. It's a pretty big class today.
See, if the color start, ink start to bleed, you wet the outside immediately with more moisture, so it will stop. Color is always secondary in Chinese painting, so we try to keep it to the extent not to exceed the ink value, not to cover the ink. My palette. I do it wet onto dry mostly, but since the ink is not dry, so it have some bleed. And it's very important to have little bits of white, dry white here and there.
Hi, Louise. You're muted. I guess everybody's muted.
I'm not muted.
Oh, okay. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hey, now, Jane, do you have my email? Did you email me a photo?
Oh, no. Was I supposed to do that?
Yeah, so I can critique your work if you like.
Oh, I was just going to hold it up.
Oh.
There it is. But I can email it to you. Okay.
Yeah, you'll see how it's better if I do it this way.
Yeah.
And maybe photograph it in a few different ways, so then I can get it right side up, so I don't have to rotate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So.
I mean, sometimes people send me it and it comes in sideways, so I can't rotate it. So.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, I just sent mine, Rob.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like I have a lot more now.
It is weird the way.
We're right on track. We started just a little bit here. Yeah.
It's weird the way the colors come up. Oh, okay, it just went.
Okay. Yeah, it's the internet, so we'll just have to deal.
And
as always, as long as we realize it's a machine and it's not perfect, then
do you
my dad taught me that.
do you have a preference when we email them? I have a choice between small, medium, and large for the size. Does that matter at all?
Probably medium would be good.
That's what I did. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Big look like too big. By the way, I'm using the
Yeah,
same.
I've noticed.
Rob,
I'm using the same brush as Henri's brush, Henry's brush, and I must say for the dry brushing of the leaves, wow, that was.
Well, good for you. Yeah.
thank you for your feedback.
Yeah.
Rob, I send you a 4 size. If it's too big, let me know. I resend it.
Okay.
Can you get
let me check.
see if you get it or not.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I've got it. I mean, that looks great.
Okay. So
yeah.
It's not upside down. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it's so. One thing nice about the large size is that I can really get into it.
Yeah, you can see the seal I did.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even, let me see. Yes.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do a really large one, or did you have a really small seal?
It's a small seal. Yeah, I was mentioned that you need a small seal for landscape. I will give you a small one next time, just with last name Sherrill.
Hey.
Rob, did you get mine?
Who am I speaking to? Let's see.
Oh, Jane.
Jane. Yes, I got it. Let's see.
Okay. I sent it vertically and horizontally, so I don't know.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one vertical, one horizontal, and that's just fine. The second one came out correct, so that's good. Perfecto.
Don't forget to record, Rob.
I will. I thank you. I got my little record. I see it right
Okay.
there.
Okay.
I am not joking because I am that like lame. I don't know why my brain doesn't. But I'm holding it in my hand. I'm not gonna forget. I think we're ready here. Okay. I'll start with Sandy. Hey, and let me get you on let me screen share. Go.
Wow.
I've got my little tools here. Whoops, now I got to get out of here. I forgot. I got to record first, Rob. Come on. Resume recording. And then screen share. And then I got my. All right. We are recording now. Yes. Okay. All right. Fun. Hey. Cool. And I like the red in there. All the red.
Thank you.
Kind of adds to the desertization. Sorry. Desert. I don't want to say desertion because that wouldn't be right.
No.
Yeah, this area right here, very, very, very nice. I love these. So, I mean, I guess to get a little bit more of a light source on there, possibly you tag this side. Well, I want to get a little bit smaller here. Yeah, this. This is dark red. I'm not sure if I'd use red, but the right side, just to get a little bit more of a sense of where the light's coming from. I can see you do have some pretty good shadows over here, yeah. And so then down below, I would probably go with color sort of like that, and maybe with some blue in it too.
Nice.
It's a really warm painting, so you would, I think, maybe go for some cools. Oh, by the way, I really like these little, I don't know what you call those things, the little spears that come out from them. I like the ones that are coming at us right here. Boom, boom.
Darker?
White one. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to do them.
Thank you.
I'll try to use this tool here, like that. Yeah, that's a great way to use white too. Looks like you used a couple up here too. That's a great idea.
I did.
But if you use white, if you're using white, then you can go ahead and doing a stick, or you're doing some of the. It's a spirit. All right. Yeah, then I think your internet connection is no. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can't.
Okay. It just told me my internet connection was getting bad, so
Oh.
if I have to get out of here and get back in, just. Here possibly, just to give it more of a light side and a shadow side, and then also to stage this guy back here.
Right.
Just a little glaze on this side of your rock, I think would be good.
Okay.
Besides that, I think you're looking pretty good. This area is getting a little bit bare. I can see how you just broke this stuff with a couple just fairly vague, quick little. Yeah, I can see a couple of those in here.
Okay.
Right. And I think this is a really good way to handle these big areas, just kind of vague, and because maybe you don't want a whole lot of attention in that area.
No, I was trying to keep my focus on the Joshua tree.
Yeah. So that was the whole idea of it, because it's just going to demand it, and then to have a secondary focal point right here.
Right. I just didn't give it enough darkness in the background.
And then if you make it too dark, it'll be the big focal point. So I would just a little glaze back there would be good.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Katie.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Here we are.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I like the way you handle the tree. Good looking massness in this tree. The way you handle these big chunks of areas it's really good. I see your idea here with the light up against dark. So the thinking is great. The dark on the light, and then the light on the dark are good. Now I would think, this is the time in the painting where you might want to think of some little edgy things. Think of, just edges of things. A little more edges in here too. Just a few more edges. Let's think about those a little bit more. And then this area right here, I think maybe we have a bit of a cast shadow around here. Or something in there, because it's what I call floating. Yeah, so this mass right here isn't floating because it has this shadow right here on the ground. So what we need is something just to ground this a little bit, and I think you need some shadow.
Okay.
In the background there, possibly here too. And let's see, base of this too, maybe darker here.
Which one? Where? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just went darker, but I would go with a darker blue personally.
Okay.
And let's see. And then, like for instance, on this shape right here.
Rob, you've cut out. Rob, you cut out.
Oh, I did? Okay, okay. Oh, okay.
Rob, are you there?
Rob, I think you've lost your connection. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I don't know. There. That's odd. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, so I don't know if you're looking at my work or not. Strange. Okay, well, as long as you can hear me, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And it is what it is. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So, I like your cropping. I love the way you cropped right into this like this. This is great. Take it right out like you did here. Good. That's a great lesson. You didn't come right up to it and stop. You took it clearly out and then you cropped it off.
Uh-huh.
That's what gives you an interesting positive shape. Here in the end, like this. I'm sorry, negative shape here is more definite when you do that. So just like in here too, you get more definite shape in there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for when we crop into things.
So stop.
And then can you see how all your rocks and vegetation and whatever kind of fall into a line, being a little more up and down and kind of
I think
So,
my
think
camera
about that.
stopped working.
They're not major things, Now, by the way, with the scrubbing out of the lights we were talking about with here, I could see you scrubbing out a few lights back here too on these.
Okay.
I stopped the video for a while. Just restart.
Then on this, did you put this in white?
No,
That's the white of the paper?
that's the white of the paper.
I might glaze that in warm, let it
Okay.
dry,
All right.
and then glaze in a couple of little shadows there on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty?
Okay,
Yep,
I
thank
think
you.
we're fine now.
Michelle. Hey.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice looking one, Michelle.
Thank you. I was happy with this one too. Thank you.
Nice.
And my husband was too, and he doesn't often say, "Oh, nice," as he walks by.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I like your colors. Your colors back in your sky are really wonderful.
Yeah, my only problem is I almost feel like the foreground, like all my paintings, doesn't match my background and style. I don't know what you think.
I guess it would be the opaque things.
Yeah.
So that means you got to come into your background with all kinds of opaque stuff. No, I'm just joking. I don't actually have a problem with that at all. I really didn't think of that at all. Well, one thing that grabbed me right away though, it seems like it probably needs something in the background around here.
Okay.
why it seems so empty. Maybe someday it could be a little vegetation, could be a little bit more rock.
Yeah, another bush or something in there, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think I take it all the way down to here or anything. I just think maybe, in the background, around there, maybe even bring it back here if you like, but it seems like it needs.
Okay.
A little more. Then the other thing that struck me was maybe something a little lighter in here. This is obviously way too light, but just a few little lights, and I think you can just pop those in opaquely. I mean, just a little bit light.
I did have them in there light, and then I washed over them, and I probably washed over them too dark. So, yeah.
That always happens to me. So I'll come back and just tag it again a little bit, and might get a little bit light again. Then I have to glaze it. I've done that 3 or 4 times. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, your colors of your clouds are phenomenal. That's. And then the way this tree works on that background really looks great. These colors come forward. These colors, recede, and it's just a great way to handle it. Those Joshua trees to me.
I really have been trying to pay attention to clouds the last couple of weeks and what they look like and other things. So that helps because I struggle with fog a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yours have a lot of feeling in them. That's mostly what I like. By the way, this one right here looks this wood right above the rock right here. You're creating this neat little negative shape in here. That's great.
May I ask what kind of glue you use for your sky? A whole bunch of them. I actually used a whole bunch, and I layered it. I started off with one, and I didn't like a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of turquoise, and I really liked. And then I came back in, maybe it's a little more cerulean, but just really liked. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
a lot of different ones. And it's not as blue in my painting as it shows up on that screen. It's a lot lighter.
Yeah, that's the way. Probably the dark zone is dark either too, right?
Well, my darks are always dark, Rob. So those darks are not black for sure. They're more of a dark purple red or a dark, more like a dark purpley red, something like a dark blue.
Dark purpley red.
Technical color.
Well, I think this is great. I really like the way you handled the ground. Really see your strokes are all going horizontal. It really makes it feel flat. And then I love these kind of marks like this. They give us some disruption in the ground without ready for this, betraying the integrity of the stroke.
Yeah, that was my whole thought when I did that.
Yeah, don't betray the integrity of the brush strokes. Wonderful. I think maybe these are a little dark personally. I would save those for maybe up here, just to get a little bit of recession, a little bit of
Yeah, I can put a wash over those. Wash.
But anyway, it's a painting. It's a painting, and in a painting, you don't always have to obey the rules of science. Science can help you, and then there's the art part. The human part. So. Anyway, this area right here is loving the way you handled that. Just loving all those watermarks. All right, well, that's what I do. Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
And Ethel. Okay. Here we a very sort of a lot of the same green and a lot of the same orange. What I would do is, it's not wrong or anything, but what I would do is throw in some, here, I gotta get the right tool here. Occasionally blues and possibly violets. I got something red violet in here. Blues and violets in here, in some of these, just to break them up.
Yeah.
And then in your oranges, let's take the rocks real quick. Just the same sort of idea. A couple of bluish things, possibly just to make it feel a little more shadowish. And the shadows on the ground look pretty darn good. But just to break up, your rendering of form looks great. I'm just thinking of little areas where you could accent some color here and there, just to give it a little spice,
Yeah.
Spice. So blues and maybe sort of violet-y things in the shadows can kind of add a little interest. The lights, I think, are just fine. It's that time of day. So I might just throw a little bit more blue violet into your shadows on the orangey things.
Okay.
Compositionally, I think you're looking pretty darn good there. Watch out for areas. Let's see. This isn't a problem, but it might be a problem at some point. So watch out for areas like that's getting a little tight. I'm glad you didn't get any tighter. I think it's okay. And then this area right here is fine, but just if you would have taken that up to here, I would have said no. And then if you'd have taken it right over, I would have said that might work. That might actually work. Go right over, but clearly over or clearly away from it. You did. I'm just mentioning that because I don't want things to get crowded. You could argue this is a little crowded over here, but I think it's working okay. And these plants look a little isolated. So what I might do is throw a rock, or what happens also is you get little ruts and things in the ground. Look further in the ground. You'll see little kind of ruddy things. See how you like this tone you use right here? So that's subtle, really. That's subtle. If you can just horizontally throw in some of those marks in here, it really lay the ground down flat. And I might not even use orange. I might use something a little bit on the blue violet side when you're doing that. That'll lay your ground down. Plus, as you're doing that, throw a couple of more little weedish things like those shrubby things, overlapping once in a while, so they aren't all so all by themselves isolated. That's another reason why I'll take a stick once in a while too. I'll take a stick over here like this, and what I'm doing with that is I'm tying this to this. So I'll use things like that. Maybe I'll have another stick, tying two things over there, here and there, and then a few little overlapping things. They're small little things, I know, but yeah, make a difference. And then when I have little things that feel like they're floating, like this right here, I'll just hit a little bit of shadow underneath it, just a little bit of something underneath, just to ground it. That's all. Like you did right here. Perfect. A little bit more of that action, right in there, and do these areas. I think you got a winner. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get Henry. Clear all drawings. All right.
Oh, wow.
Henry sent me over a really big picture. I mean, really large, so I can get really close into it.
Yeah.
nice looking signature you got there. You know, if the signature is good, it's going to be good. No. See, you see what he did here, you guys? Look at this. See this move right here? He took that clearly behind. Good move.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my intention.
Even though these two are a little tangent, this is a little tangent to the rock there. The thing is that it has such a soft edge, it doesn't really distract you.
Mm-hmm.
That's where edges can come into play, you guys. So that's edges become just really so important. Great edges, wonderful dry brushing. I could see a couple more. I wanted to get a few little opaque in here. I could see some little opaque, bluish things, and I do see some blue in there. So maybe you're hitting it more than I see.
Yeah, I would add some more.
Blues and violets, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wrong value, but
yeah, I tend to do the dark too dark, so always add gouache after.
I do too. I hit them really dark too. But,
I will do the gouache over the darks.
Yeah, it'll wake those areas up. I don't think that should be any problem at all.
Okay.
I love. See how this Joshua tree back here becomes. I mean, you know it's a Joshua tree, but it's not screaming for your attention because he loses it like right in here and finds it over here. It's not demanding your attention. It's there. It's a backdrop. It's a supporting backdrop for the main idea, which is right in here and here, of course. So great play of lost and found edges in there. I think the way you're handling these bouldery rocks is just great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's just. I love how this one just really takes you on a leaning you this way, kind of leans you this direction.
Mm-hmm.
This one kind of walks you down and over in this direction. Just very, very natural, very much, very Rocky-like.
Thank you.
Adrian. No, I'm just joking. That was my impression of Rocky. Just so you know.
It's like animals.
Yeah. No. Yeah, very Rocky. And now this is really nondescript. And I actually don't mind that. I mean, it looks like you didn't want to make a big deal about this light up against the dark. Just to add interest.
Yeah, I used the gouache. I didn't save enough white.
I mean, so if you wanted to, you could add a little, maybe less water in that.
Okay. Just more gouache.
Yeah, if you want to pull that out a little bit more. And then look how he leaves these big, bold white areas, you guys. This is the way. See these big, bold white areas. This is the way to make those white areas become a stylistic theme. Okay, so it doesn't look like he's avoiding doing that. It looks like he's making this into a thing.
Rob, he's also, which I'm just realizing, which is a really cool thing to see him be able to do, is he's exploiting the texture of the paper too, and the added texture is something that's more believable because you see the materials and the texture of things in the foreground more than the back. So he's actually exploiting that whole idea, is he not? You know what I mean?
Yes, he is.
Okay. I mean, I'm just realizing how different that looks from the real fluid sky, which is the way your eye would perceive as well. So
the dry and the wet, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really pretty. Okay.
Yeah, the dry brush will exploit the texture absolutely of the paper. Are you on rough paper?
Yeah, rough arches. Rough.
Yeah. And look at these little, by scratching into the paper here, he's getting these little light things that aren't white, but they're lighter than what's next to them.
Yeah, I did it with palette knife.
Palette knife, all right. So anyway, I think you got a great looking composition. By the way, look how light these are in the background. See how that gives some depth? These little accents in the background. At that note, I might actually possibly even lighten this guy up a little bit to get a little bit more depth out of it. Those are just some ideas. Other than that, I mean, this is fantastic. Great. Put a
Thank
frame
you.
on it.
Yeah, my favorite place to paint plein air. Did you see my video link that I did? I think I have a painting behind me. If you look at my image, let me show you quickly. You see my my painting behind me? That's the frame. If you you have to stop sharing screen to see my painting.
I can see your I see your emblem. It says blue herring.
Oh, did I? Oh, I don't. I'm sorry. I didn't start my video. Sorry. It's on my other channel. Anyway. Yeah.
No problem. Okay. All right. Anyway, very nicely done. Very nicely done. Yeah. A little color in your darks. Mostly. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Daniel. Hey, beautiful. Oh, you went for the one with the dramatic yellow hills in the background. Great. Nice color. Hey, this is a winner. You know what my favorite area is? I love this area